I want to know how you prepare for a golf tournament.
Well, I hit balls maybe 20 minutes, putt a little bit, smoke 4 or 5 cigarettes, drink 3 Diet Cokes, and go to the first tee. Some days I won't even go to the range.
We have made it to July. Welcome in. It is the Daily Puck Drop, hashtag the DPD, as we find you here on Monday, July 1st. And look behind us. Look at it. It's here, finally here. Puck Sports Studios, built by Limbach Lumber, family owned and serving the Northwest since 1930. The Northwest's premier supplier in specialized lumber and moldings. Summer is here. You know what that means. It's deck and fence season. Contact the folks at Limbach Lumber at 206-782-3487. Visit them online at limbachlumber.com. Again, Puck Sports Studios, built by Limbach Lumber. We are super excited to have Limbach Lumber a part of Puck Sports. Big thanks to everyone over there at Limbach Lumber. If you just give me a second here or two, to Paul and Matt and Mark and everyone over there at Limbach Lumber, family-owned operation. If you are a do-it-yourselfer, if you are a small contractor, they are the very best. Located in historic Ballard, they've been around since 1930. It is old school Ballard. It is family-owned. And just a great group of people over there at Limbach Lumber. And I just want to say thank you to them for reaching out and agreeing to this partnership. And hopefully they enjoy the backdrop. I hope you guys enjoy it as well. And again, moving forward every single day for everything we do, all of it. The studio is sold. Again, Puck Sports Studios, built by Limbach Lumber, the Limbach Lumber Studios. And just thrilled. It's been fun to get to know everyone over there and to be a part of it. And I'm glad that the sponsor of the studio is a business that has been around forever, family owned, third generation. That the fact that it's in my neighborhood is another cool thing about it. So if you have any lumber questions, any need for anything that you want to get done. Again, for deck season, your fences, anything in the summer, visit Limbach Lumber, limbachlumber.com. And again, that phone number, 206-782-3487. The Limbach Lumber Studios. That's a hell of a sign back there. The best thing is that jacket, because they have got the coolest stuff in terms of like old school, like 70s retro look. It's got that like old Oakland A's look to it. But you can visit them online. Again, as I mentioned before, limbachlumber.com, but also on Instagram. Just search up Limbach Lumber. But again, the Puck Sports Studios, built by Limbach Lumber, here on Monday, July 1st. Here we go. We'll start with the Mariners. We got a lot on them. They are leaking oil. We'll give you some numbers offensively, in which they have just been putrid, where you make an argument that they are, well, you don't make the argument, they are. They are worse off this year than they were last year offensively. Monday means visits with Bill Kruger and Jim Duquette. So those will be coming out later today. We'll get their thoughts on where the M's are at right now. What can they do to improve it? At this point, I mean, they could go and get a couple of bats. I don't even know if a couple of bats will help this team. They are just that lost offensively. And if they don't get it turned around soon, they're going to cough up a lead, which was just a huge lead of what, a few weeks ago. They were up 10 games, and now this thing is all the way down to 3.5. We'll go deep dive. We'll deep dive in all those numbers coming up here on the Daily Puck Drop. Also, as we end every show, every Daily Puck Drop with Hey, What the Puck, it is very golf-themed. I'll tell you that today. Very golf-themed with a lot of great stories coming up on Hey, What the Puck, involving also my favorite golfer, the great Charlie Hall. But let's get to the Mariners and talk about this offense that has just been falling apart. 4-8 in their last 12 games. They're 47-39 on the season. They've lost their last 4 series. They're now just 3.5 games over Houston. Their offense is significantly, I'm going to repeat this for emphasis. Their offense this year is significantly worse than it was a year ago, which is just unbelievable and amazing and hard to imagine that it's significantly worse than it was a year ago. But that's the truth. That's the reality. It's unbelievable. Here are the numbers. Got to go old school on the old reporters tab for this one. Here are the numbers of where this team was at. Now, it's a full season. The full season, and then where the Mariners are at right now. But a full season. So last year they finished 22nd in batting average. They were 242. This year they're at 218. Dead last in baseball. Last year they were 15th in on-base percentage at 321. They currently have an on-base percentage of 298, which finds them 25th in baseball. Last year their slugging had them 16th in baseball at 413. This year they're 365, 26 there in baseball. OPS last year they finished 734, middle of the pack, 16th. Almost every stat was 16, or almost every stat was middle of the order for these guys. This year they're 26 in baseball, 663. Runs scored a year ago, 12th. They ended the season 12th in runs scored, which, by the way, when I saw that, it kind of surprised me. Currently this year, 26 in runs scored. The one thing that has remained the same from last year to this year, strikeouts. They ended last year with the second most strikeouts in baseball, right behind the Minnesota Twins, who they just finished up that 3-game series, having lost 2 out of 3. This year, they are number 1 in strikeouts. So nothing that they did in the offseason, nothing, has even helped this offense. In fact, it's worse. It's worse. Now, it's not all on the new guys. It's not on all the new people that they brought over, because we're going to get to the main culprit of this whole thing. And one of the main culprits of this is Julio Rodriguez. And I don't think anybody knows what's wrong with him. I would have bet that he doesn't even know or understand truly what is going on with him, because he just seems lost at the plate. I was sitting there on Saturday night watching it, and buddy of mine, we were just talking about him forever. It just seems like every time he swings, like he's falling over, like just off balance and confused. It doesn't know what to swing at or what pitch is coming. But you look at his overall numbers right now of what he's doing. I mean, they paid him as a superstar. He is a superstar in this league, or he has played that way at least. I mean, not this year. But this year, I mean, he is 134th. And these numbers are so bad. He's 134th in OPS. He's 139th in baseball in slugging. He's got the 82nd batting average. He's 142nd in home runs, and he's 135th in RBIs. Now, again, it's not all on him, just like it's not all on the new guys that they acquired. But this offense and this team goes the way he goes. And the fact is that we are this many now games in the season. What are we, 80? Don't do math off the top of your head. Okay, what are we, 77, 88 games into the year? 88 games into the year. Fact is that he has yet to get going. But yet we keep just saying, well, wait, it's going to turn around. Once the weather gets going, once he gets into the season, still has time. And he has shown it in the past where he can have a monstrous July. I thought he was going to have a huge series against Minnesota. We said this on Friday, just because I thought the return of Carlos Santana, guy that he looked up to, who was a mentor, that maybe seeing a familiar face will help him relax a little bit, and he'd have a big series. But he did not have a big series. But, I mean, I don't know what point people want to get to where you're concerned. I mean, I think after 88 games, should you not be concerned of where you're at right now, or 86 games there in the season? This is why I don't do math right off the top of my head, because I'm terrible at it. But damn near 90 games. Let's just go with that. Round up. Damn near 90 games into the year. And you have a guy that is still scuffling and still hasn't figured out. I don't know when it gets too late. All is forgotten if he ends the season on a high note. If he has some, remarkable last few months, or let's say he has a huge August and a huge September, and he maybe he's not going to get back to his numbers that he has been in the past, but it catapults them to the playoffs. I think you'll clearly just remember the good rather than the bad. I mean, last year when he put up good numbers, remember he had that one stretch, in July where he was sensational and then cooled off, at the that final month of the season. So you kind of remember that more than anything. But I don't know. He seems to be lost for answers. He had an early BP, I think, session on Friday where it was the hitting coaches for the Mariners, his personal hitting coach, and also Edgar Martinez were there to watch him. And they're trying to figure out ways to get him going, changing the swing. I don't know if it's a point where you start changing the swing. Do you change the setup? Do you just go back to get in the box and just feel comfortable? However it looks, just get in there and feel comfortable. And it's the old thing of just, can you see the ball and hit the ball? It's the hardest thing to do in sports is to hit baseball. But he has been painful to watch. It was painful to watch him on Saturday night, just like it was painful to watch that entire team Saturday night. We went, and it was long, and it was one of the most boring games I've ever been to. Just no action offensively. Nothing really happened. I think that game they struck out 15 times in that game. It's just the ball's never being put in play. It's a strikeout, strikeout, strikeout. I don't think they walked that game. I think they had one or two walks, and then Haniger hit a home run. But it's just it's a hard watch offensively. Yesterday they go 4 for 18 with runners in scoring position. They leave 12 on Sunday. They struck out 39 times in that 3-game series. That's just awful. It's terrible. 39 times. And then yesterday, which it finally caught up with them. Divish and I have talked about it before. I think we've even mentioned it with Brad. When they decided to get rid of Savala, and that wasn't the wrong decision. I think ultimately the wrong decision was, hey, man, if you get rid of him, you are playing with fire that if you want to catch Garver, do you give Raleigh a day off and don't have him do anything, or do you DH him? They've elected several times to, hey, we're going to catch Garver, but then we'll have Cal Raleigh be the designated hitter. Now, I get the thinking behind it. I think we all understand. It's an offense that is struggling to hit, produce, and all of that. So I get it. He's one of your best power bats in your lineup, so you want to throw him in there because they don't want to take out good bats out of this lineup right now. But when you do that, you are playing with fire, and they got bit by it. Got bit by it yesterday in that game. Garver gets hit on the hand. I guess x-rays are negative, so that's good. But because you were DHing Cal Raleigh, now Cal Raleigh's got to come in and catch, and you'll lose your DH spot. So you got poor Luis Castillo coming up there. What was that, in the 4th inning? I got to pause for a sip of coffee. Hold on. He's got to come in there and hit. They instruct him not to hit, not to even swing the bat, which I don't know. We can debate that later. He can't just stick his I know what people are going to say. He can't, and I know it's hard to bunt. He had a runner at second. He's been in the National League. He's hit before. He can't just stick the bat out there and hopefully it makes contact with the ball. Now, the counter to it would be, well, what if he fouls it back in his face or hits him on his hand and then he's done. I mean, I get all of that, and people are probably right, fine, but God, to sit and watch him go up there, and it was clear, and they said it afterwards, that they told him not to swing, not to do anything. It was just like bing, bing, bing. It's like it just led because the frustration was because you put yourself in that spot by having Cal be the DH. This was, it mounted to all of this where you, again with Castillo, you had to throw him up there. And then later in the game, when he's only thrown 77 pitches in 5 innings, you take him out of the game, which I understand it. It's a 1-run game. You're trying to take advantage. You pitch hit for him. Here comes Ryan Bliss, who ends up striking out anyways. You don't take advantage of it. But because of the decision that was made earlier in the day to have them both in the lineup, now you've got to take a pitcher out. who should have still been in the game, hadn't thrown through 77 pitches, and you're now dipping into your bullpen, in which you've got to cycle through a bunch of guys, in which your bullpen hasn't been that great, especially putting guys into different roles that they're not used to, and then it bit them later in the game. So that was a big failure. I mean, these managers and coaches are all going to make decisions, and they're all going to be right, but this was one I felt for a long time when they continued to do this was going to eventually get them. And it got them there yesterday. They've got, 12 games or so before the All-Star break, or before they play Houston, which is the All-Star break because they play Houston right after it. It's a 3.5 game lead right now. I mean, you got to ask the question, are they going to still be in the division lead by the time they welcome in Houston, that first series right after the All-Star break at T-Mobile? The way that Houston is playing right now, they're playing red hot. They've been fantastic. I don't know, man. They're 9-1 in their last 10 games. They've got 4 games against Toronto, 3 against Minnesota, which they basically just playing what the Mariners just played, 3 against Miami, and then 3 against Texas. I mean, if they cough this thing, can you imagine them coughing this thing up, this lead, before they even face them in that first series after the break? I mean, it is, think about it, that lead has gone from 10 games, it has disappeared all the way down to 3.5, which is just in like a snap of a finger, is how fast that happened there for the Mariners. So I don't know what solutions they can do offensively, who they can acquire. We'll talk to Kruger about that today. We'll also talk to Jim Duquette. It's not like they can go out and replace 5 guys. In all likelihood, what are they going to get? They're probably not going to get 2 bats. They'll probably just get a bat and then probably a bullpen arm. So you're looking at 2 trades. Well, is 1 bat going to significantly upgrade what they have and what they struggle with offensively right now? Now, maybe they just strengthen their strength, which is their pitching. So I don't know. Do they go get 2 bullpen arms? Do they go get a reliever and then a starter and just say, you know what, F it. We'll make our pitching staff elite, because we know if we get into the playoffs, then we can beat anyone, because the game and the style of the game changes and all that. But offensively, if they go out and acquire someone, I mean, just if you dream big and it's Luis Robert Jr. or it's Vlad Guerrero, is that one player significantly going to change that entire offense? Or how many wholesale changes do they need to make? I mean, I think realistically, even if you are glass half full, which is, again, amazing right now that they still are, and it speaks to the pitching, 8 games over 500. But I think this is fair. Okay, these are all the areas where they could use an upgrade. Okay, first base, designated hitter. Second base, third base, pick an outfield spot. Like, depends. You can play Rayleigh. Do you want to say both left and right? Let's just say one of them. Let's say right field. That's 5. 5 spots, right? First base, second base, DH, third, right field. I mean, I know not everyone's perfect. Every team has got holes, but my goodness. I mean, I think when you sit back and you watch them play and go, they really could significantly upgrade at 5 different spots. Yet they're in the lead right now. How much longer can they hold on? And yes, they need these guys that they were depending on to step up. I mean, I don't think they ever thought they would get this out of Garver. Luke Raley's been fantastic. And I think the more and more that you can play Luke Raley, and maybe eventually because you use him more, the league will figure him out, because you're putting him in good spots anyways. To sit there and play against a bunch of right-handers. I mean, they face a bunch of righties anyways. But at this point, because I don't know if you have any other options, I think he just needs to play almost every single day, even when you're facing left-handers. And if he struggles, he struggles. But they need to run Luke Raley out there as much as they possibly can. They're kind of already doing it anyways, but they need to get him out there all the time. The situation right field with Haniger, we discussed it last week. I mean, the numbers are the numbers. He just appears, honestly, to kind of be done. Polanco, we'll talk to Kruger about Polanco. I don't know how much more time you want to give him. I know he's been injured, so it's not all his fault. But even when he wasn't injured, he wasn't producing. I don't know if Ryan Bliss is the answer. I mean, I think eventually, if you play Ryan Bliss even more and more and more, the league will figure him out. And he probably is not a guy that is going to be a starter, an everyday player in baseball. But at this point, who knows? Let's figure it out. Do you sit there and play Dylan Moore, even more frequently? I mean, I think all options have got to be on the table right now. Do you more at third? You put Rojas at second? I mean, I think any and all ideas, you throw them up against a wall to see what you can figure out. Because they are not going to obviously address all of their offensive woes there at the deadline. Because they simply can't. There's too many teams in competition right now because of all the teams that are still live in the NL wildcard race, and for that matter, still live in the American League wildcard race. I mean, there's just too many teams they're going to be competing against. How much do they want to gut their farm system in order to improve themselves offensively? That's why we get back into the offseason. It's just rinse and repeat for the last few years. You can improve your team without ever, ever, ever dipping in to your farm system. All you got to do is dip into your checkbooks, and they just didn't do it. And they haven't done it for several years. And it's been the same issue. And it's frustrating because every time they get a free agent and they bring him here, it's like as if they forgot and they forgot how to hit, and they come here and they strike out, and they become a shell of themselves where they were at in their previous stop. Some injury notes here on the Mariners. Wu apparently is getting closer to throwing off a mound, so that's good. He's eligible to come off the DL on July 8th. Santos threw a BP on Friday. Looks like rehab assignment this week. Gabe Spire's been playing catch, so they need arms, and they need arms bad, especially at that back end. They don't have these wipeout guys, these power pitchers that they used to have, and of course the Brash injury and all that. But they need Spire back. They need Santos to get going. They need the Logan Evans kid to come up as fast as possible, and who knows what he'll be like. But they just need arms desperately, like now. The Bet-M's summer under continues. Win 2-1 this weekend. I guess that's a positive from the series against the Twins. So overall, 27, 28-2. If you're not familiar with it, we're betting on the under of every single Mariners game this year. So we've pretty much been 500, even Steven, but a game under 500 right now. Someone had texted me or emailed me. You can always send me an email, puck@pucksports.com. Send an email, comment on the show, tell us what you like, don't like, all of it. Keep the what we don't like to a minimum, all right? I'm a very sensitive person, okay? He said, hey, you should start doing a Jared Kelenic watch. And I said, that's a fantastic idea, sir. I believe Travis was his name. So shout out, Travis. Travis, this is for you. The Jared Kelenic watch. Yeah, his numbers would lead everybody on the baseball team if he were still here. 278. This is his slash line. 278, 324, 457 slug, and a 781 OPS. 9 home runs, 26 RBIs. So he's got a better average than anyone on the M's, a better on base, a better OPS, third in home runs, a better slugging. He does have 69 strikeouts in 69 games. Now, to be fair, to just be 100% fair, he is, hold on, because I want to pull up, I can't remember. I want to get his exact age right. To be fair, Luke Raley and him essentially have the same numbers. They're pretty much identical. You have just replaced Jared Kelenic with Luke Raley. You can make an argument that that Kelenic's a better defender for sure. But Raley's numbers, 261, so not that far off the 278. His on-base percentage is 305, so that's less than Kelenic at 324. His slugging is 449. Kelenic's 457. Their OPS, virtually the same, 754 to 781. They have the same amount of home runs. He's got 3 less RBIs, and he has struck out 69 times in 72 games. They basically played the exact same season. Now, the biggest difference clearly between Jared Kelenic and Luke Raley, and we've talked about it on this show because we've said many times that Raley basically has just been Kelenic, but also kind of probably a better fit, better personality, just because the way he kind of conducts himself, the energy, the emotion that he brings to it. It's not that Kelenic didn't do that, but if Kelenic ever went through kind of a rough patch, he'd kind of get down on himself, and the injuries, the kicking of the water cooler, that type of behavior kind of sometimes would permeate throughout that entire clubhouse a little bit. But it's just the age. I mean, Rayleigh's 29 and Jared Kelnic's 24. It goes back into an offseason which I think, as we are all Mariner fans, you're really disappointed in knowing that your ownership group forced your front office to sell off a 24-year-old who may or may not be a superstar. You don't know. Could be just a third, fourth outfielder, but made you guys sell him off because you wanted to get rid of a contract to Marco Gonzalez. And then in order to get Atlanta to do that, which then they flipped Gonzalez around, in order to get them to do it, you had to give them, a top prospect in your organization. That was, and maybe hasn't scratched the surface yet of what he can be. And he goes to an organization known for winning and developing, and he's starting to do that. I mean, he's clearly on a much better team, hitting leadoff for him, and is having a great season. You would much rather have the 24-year-old than the 29-year-old. But if I'm just going to look at it, that's why I did the comparison. Just this year alone, Rayleigh is putting up this. They're putting up the same numbers, but 5 years older. And it will always be, no matter what happens, a head scratcher for them. Why they did it, why this ownership group just could not swallow the money or figure something else out. But one of those moves that we all as Mariner fans always feel that every time you trade somebody away, a young player, that guy's going to come back and haunt them. And you just hope that this doesn't come back to haunt them. I mean, you hope for success for Jared Kelenic because that want to wish him to have a bad career. But yeah, if he goes on to continue to have these numbers and help Atlanta get back in the postseason, maybe even win the whole thing again, you just look back at it and go, one of your biggest off-season moves as an ownership group was to literally just hand over a 24-year-old prospect, could be great, to a team just because you wanted to shed payroll. And that will be written the storyline of the 2024 Mariners if they can't get it turned around. All right, so that's the Daily Puck Drop. We're going to get to Hey What the Puck here quickly as we wrap it up from the Limback Lumber Studios. All right, Hey What the Puck. I saw this story over the weekend. Shout out John Manley of the Tacoma News Tribune. John, we're going to try and get you on, talk more about this, because this has got a lot of different storylines to it. So Chambers Bay apparently is looking at LIV Golf. LIV Golf, a representative from LIV, has reached out to the Pierce County leaders. So somebody from their marketing agency reached out there to Pierce County to gauge their interest in hosting perhaps a future LIV Golf tournament. I will be real curious to see where this is split for people that want to see it, people that don't want to see it. It will be split right down county lines. I'll tell you that, because I bet you anything, might be one or two. The majority of people in Pierce County would say, I don't care. Yes to LIV, no doubt about it. I would assume that most people in King County, if this were to happen, would be like, no, you can't associate yourself with a dictatorship. Part of me that wants to see this happen is because I want to see the two counties just go butt heads against each other. But we even talked about this, I think a week or so ago, or a couple of weeks ago, when the U.S. Open was around, and we're just talking about the future sites of the USGA and the U.S. Open, in which it goes out to, what did we say, 2044. So that's never coming back. I mean, the U.S. Open is never coming back to Chambers Bay because the U.S. Open wants it in these historical places, right? Pebble Beach, Pinehurst. They just want to rotate between those spots now. They're going to get the leftover crumbs, and they even said it in that story. That's what they're getting. And the terrific job there by John Manley of the Tacoma News Tribune, that they're just going to get the little crumbs left over, the four ball, the amateurs, all that stuff. And they are going to say, well, that appeases you, right, Chambers Bay? Well, it shouldn't. I mean, keep in mind, and again, I think it's worth to point this out more and more, or again and again. Chambers Bay did nothing wrong that weekend of the U.S. Open. It wasn't their fault that the greens were that way. It was the fault of the USGA, how they handled it. USGA comes in and controls the golf course before it starts. And they are the ones who ruined the greens, not the people at Chambers Bay. Had they listened to them, it would have been fine. But the USGA and Mike Davis came in there, and they wanted him super fast. And when they burned him out, it caused that to be all bumpy and caused all the issues. The ire should have been placed at the USGA and not at the feet of Chambers Bay. So I'm glad that they're looking at LIV. Maybe it wakes up the USGA, maybe not. But I would say this for Chambers Bay. Whether I philosophically or agree with the decision to go with LIV, that's besides the point. What I'm proud of Pierce County and Chambers Bay is looking at other alternatives, because they need to move past the USGA. I know they said in that piece they want to continue maybe a relationship with them and all that, and I get it. You don't want to completely shut the door on them, and I understand all of it. I'd like them to completely shut the door. I just move on. They even mentioned in that article, did John, that they have even reached out. They're possibly Pierce County could reach. They're open to other partnership ideas. PGA of America, which controls the PGA Championship, as John noted in it. One of the representatives from Pierce County saying, it's the problem with the PGA Championship. It's expensive. I mean, you need a title sponsor. And when I read that, I was like, it's like $15 to $30 million title sponsor. And I'm like, do you know where we live? You're telling me one of these companies here couldn't come up, be a title sponsor? Amazon, Boeing, Weyerhaeuser. I mean, there is a plethora of companies here that could support to be a title sponsor for this. And if I hear anything about the Boeing Classic getting in the way of this, then you know what I would say to the Champions Tour? Bye. See you later. If the Champions Tour and Boeing and that golf course up there wants to raise a fit about an event coming here, and if they say, well, if you come here, we'll pull out, then you know what? Shake their hand, tell them it was been a great run up there, but I would rather see professional golfers in their prime than the older guys. Please do not let that, the Boeing Classic, be some detractor to trying to get at a PGA event here or a relationship with PGA of America. And we've talked before that I think one of the best events they could possibly have here would be a Ryder Cup as too. I hope maybe Chambers Bay looks into that there as well. More golf news. I'm still in love with Charlie Hall. We've talked about this, my love affair with Charlie Hall. She might be perfect. So she's getting ready for an event last week. And instead of practicing for her event in the practice rounds, she said, I want to bail. I want to bail and go do something else. And man, when I saw this, I just think my heart fluttered a little bit more for Charlie Hall.
It's actually quite good because I haven't actually played the front nine on the golf course yet because
it was so busy.
It was so busy, and I wanted to watch it. And I wanted to watch the England game, so I literally just said, "Ads, let's just go to the pub instead."
Yeah, so I had to guide around the front nine a little bit, but we did pretty well considering, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
So instead of doing her practice round, Charlie Hall, who is hot and is just throwing down lung darts left and right on the golf course, says to her partner, yeah, let's skip out on the practice round. Let's go to the pub, throw down some beers, and watch the lads play soccer. No one is perfect, but she might be pretty close to being perfect. Charlie Hall, a real, true icon in the world of sports. More golf news. Craziness at the U.S. Open. This is nuts. Frank Benzel Jr., Frankie, made back-to-back hole-in-ones at the Newport Country Club at the Senior U.S. Open. The best part about this, there's so many elements to this. First of all, back-to-back hole-in-ones. The odds of having two hole-in-ones in the same round are 1 in 67 million, let alone going back-to-back hole-in-ones. What golf course has 2 back-to-back par 3s? That was the first thing I thought of. But his scorecard is just magnifique. So he had the 2 aces. Right after the 2 aces, he which he used the same club on, a 6-iron, he backed it up with 4 straight bogeys. He ended up having 8 total bogeys. He shot a 9 over 74. Or excuse me, he shot a 9 over. It was a 9 over overall. Sorry. He ended up having only 1 birdie. 1 birdie on the course. No, excuse me, not even 1 birdie. I mean, I'm butchering this all because I got thrown off by giving the incorrect number of 74. He shot a 9 over. He did not have a single birdie. Not one. He had the 2 aces and the 8 bogeys, and the rest were pars. It's unbelievable. The other cool thing about the story, his 14-year-old son was on the bag. He's the first ever player to ever card 2 hole-in-ones in consecutive holes at any sanctioned event. But God, I love that scorecard. 2 aces, 8 bogeys, pars. That's just phenomenal. One last note here, not on golf, but baseball. And this is I think, and we'll talk to John Canzano about it on Tuesday, this is the result of conference realignment, I think. I can't think of another reason why a sitting head coach would leave to go be an assistant coach at a program. But the the Utah baseball coach, Jason Kelly, who had only been there for 2 years, by the way, has left the University of Washington and is now going to be the new pitching coach at Texas A&M. So in 2 years at UW, he was 54, 51, and 1. Didn't have a good year this year, but his first year was really good. He leaves to join the Aggies. And I just think it comes down to conference realignment. Simple as that. I think he looked at the situation. It's the SEC, so it's a better conference for baseball. It's more high level. He's joining a team that just played in the national championship. They just elevated a coach there to take over for the one guy that bolted to Texas. The head coach that is there at A&M, he and Kelly were coaches together at Arizona State. So Kelly goes there to, a program that probably, even though it's an assistant job, I bet you they're paying him the same amount of money. Or I bet you that they could be even paying him more. The cost of living is probably, well, not probably, it is less. I mean, he's living in College Station, Texas compared to Seattle. So I think that the health of the program is better. The competition is better. But I bet you if Kelly does an interview, when he does an interview, I think he's going to mention the travel. I think the travel is going to be a big factor into it because he had to navigate. He must look at it and go, I got to navigate now a program in which we are traveling across the country to go play baseball. I don't have to do that at A&M. The travel is much shorter. I'll stay there for a couple of years, and I bet you I land a better job. Rather than if I go to Washington, struggle with all the travel, with all the logistics. I don't want to deal with it. Pay is not great. And then maybe I don't get another opportunity to go coach someplace else. But I think him leaving, unless there's some other reason that he eventually gives, I think that the reason he left was because of the conference realignment and the traveling. I think that plays a big part in it. I think you saw it with the softball team. Heather Tars talked about that a lot. I don't think she said it's because of conference realignment, but I bet you a lot of those girls leaving the program just did not look at what their travel schedule was going to be and go, I don't want to sign up for that. That's too much. Not to say that these schools aren't in better situations financially. They clearly are. But the pros and cons, the con of it is that right there. For football teams, for the UW football team, it's not going to be a problem. It's not going to affect them at all. Basketball team, we'll see. It's the other sports. It's the other sports that's going to affect them. And I think you're going to see more and more of this, especially of these teams on the West Coast that are going out there. All right, that's it for the Daily Puck Drop. And hey, what the puck? We do it at the end of the show every single day. The Daily Puck Drop releases 10 a.m. every single day, Monday through Friday. Coming up later today on the show, we'll have Bill Kruger talking Mariners baseball, trades. What would he do with Polanco? We'll find out. Jim Duquette Does he have a solution, an answer for Julio? How much help can they get at the deadline? We'll cover all that stuff with Kruger and Jim Duquette. And again, big thanks. Our first show broadcasting inside the Limback Lumber Studios, Puck Sports Studios, built by Limback Lumber. Again, it is a summer and deck season, so go contact the fine folks there at Limback Lumber. Visit them online at limbacklumber.com. They premier supplier of lumber, specialized lumber, and moldings. The phone number, you can give them a call at 206-782-3487. Puck Sports Studios, built by Limback Lumber. We'll talk to you soon. As always, we promise to be better.
No shirt, no shoes, no ties.
Would anybody like to smoke some pot?
Yeah.
I was born to love you. I was born to lick your face. I was born to rob you. But you were born to rub me first.
What do you need my address for?
We'd like to send out a mailer.
Mother of mercy, I don't speak Japanese!